This is a presentation I used to do at conventions on how to self-publish. I stopped doing it a number of years ago. This was updated about 3 years or so ago. Maybe a little out of date. I'll try to mention when we get to those parts. I'm a bit rusty on this one. I haven't even practiced it, so hopefully there won't be too many flubs and flaws. And I have no idea how long this is going to take because I haven't done it in a long time, but it used to be around 45 minutes to an hour. So there's a lot of topics about self-publishing, and self-publishing is you're publishing it yourself. You're an independent author. You're doing all the work yourself. You're not signed with anybody, and those are the self-publishing topics I want to go over. The different aspects of being a self-published author or an indie author. Now, what is self-publishing? Some history, of course. How does it differ from Vanity Press? And how did it get started? Now, Vanity Press is you're paying for it. You're paying for people to print your books. They're not going anywhere. They're going to print a bunch, put them in a directory, and whether or not they sell, who knows? Nowadays, they'll put them on Amazon, but again, it's not what you want to do. How did self-publishing get started? It got started when a certain person at Apple, who is now deceased, basically tried to price fix the industry. And he'd be in jail now if he was not in a coffin, because the federal government did go after him for this. But Amazon, they basically said, well, if they're going to price fix all the books, let's allow people to put their own books up. And they did, and it took off, and Amazon made a lot of money, and everything happened from there. Now, why do it? Well, there's no gatekeepers, and there's a low bar to entry. You can write whatever you want and put it out there. But, of course, that's a double-edged sword, because are you going to sell or not? Is there people going to want to read what you wrote? And these are all things that you need to learn along the process of becoming an author. But the nicest thing is you don't have to get a contract. You don't need an agent. And you can't get an agent unless you have a contract. And these days, agents really are not worth it. The advantages, royalties, you get a much larger piece of the pie. Time to market, well, you finish the book, you get a cover, you do your editing and everything else, and boom, it's up. I've got a contract, or I write books for a traditional publisher, and from the time I turn it over to them to the time it sees print is a year, sometimes longer. Editorial freedom, yeah, you can write whatever you damn well please. No Madison Street BS, yeah, you're not having people telling what you can and cannot do. You don't have all the marketing stuff. There's just tons of things. You know your sales numbers. Publishers will not tell you what your sales numbers are. Get this through your head. There are people who say, oh, they'll tell. No, they won't. They'll tell you estimates. They'll tell you what another company goes out, BookScan, and figures out. But you will never know your exact sales numbers from most traditional publishers. It's been that way forever. There's reasons for it, but that's just the way there is. Disadvantages. No one to guide you on your career. No one's going to give you any help. No one's going to hold your hand. There's not going to be able to come back and telling you what markets best, what sells best, any of that. You're not going to get any writing advice. No one's going to sit there unless you employ someone. No one's going to give you any help. And no marketing support. It's all on you. No awards. Yep. Nobody gives out awards usually. They're starting to, but for the most part, nobody gives awards to indie authors. You're not going to get any respect. Not from anybody. No bookstores, and having space on a bookshelf is like the best marketing in the world. You can't buy that. And you're not going to have sales events at major shows, cons, etc. You know, you can get them at smaller cons and things like that. You can buy a table in the back and do sales, but you're not going to get sales events unless you know somebody or you can have lots of money to blow. Where do you start? Well, what do you want to be? I mean, there's nothing wrong with this being a hobby. And if you just want to write a book now and again, that is perfectly fine. Just getting your book out there, you are head and shoulders above everyone else who talks about writing a book but never do. So if you just want to do this as a hobby, that's great. Side job, make some side money, that's perfectly fine. If you want to do it as a career, that's also fine. Just understand, it's a long road, it's a hard road, and it's not easy. But you need to decide what you're going to do because it's going to drive a lot of your decisions. I started this as a hobby. Then it became a side job and was a side job for a number of years until I took off. And then I decided to just go career. I worked through it in steps. And there's nothing wrong with that for any of you. So, understand your goals. The most important thing to understand if you're going to publish, this is a business. Even if you're only doing it as a hobby, money changes hands and contracts are signed. This is a business. And you need to respect it as one. And yes, I read that verbatim because that is incredibly important. And it's going to have a huge effect on you and your life if you do not. Now, what's your writing schedule? What are you willing to commit? I used to just write on weekends. Then I started writing in the evenings. And then I started writing all day long when I went full time. What are your resources? How much money are you willing to spend on this? How much time? I mean, if you've got a family, you've got children, you're pretty limited on all that. So know these things, live within your means because you want to enjoy this. You don't want to be making your life miserable. First thing to do once you get through all that, decide you're going to do this, is you have to determine which places you want to do business with, and you have to open up accounts with them, like Amazon. Amazon's a good one to start with. There are some others. Smashwords, I think, has finally gone away, so you have to deal with Draft Digital. They're good and bad. They all are good and bad, except for Apple. They're just bad. And, of course, the biggest thing, finish your book. If you don't have a book to sell, then it's kind of pointless to do everything else, but as far as opening up accounts. And then profit, right? We're on the money train. Some questions. Do you have an accountant? And are they a CPA? Get one. Don't do your taxes yourself. Don't care how small you are. If you're doing this as a business, get a freaking accountant. I can guarantee you, if you're doing your own taxes, unless you're spending 2 or 3 weeks at it a year, you're losing money. It's worth the accountant. Trust me on this. I've had one for 30 years now, and I used to spend 2 to 3 weeks a year doing my own taxes. I used to study the tax code. It was just so much easier and cheaper to pay someone else. Also, make sure they understand the tax codes and laws dealing with authors, which are very much different from everyone else's. Okay? Talk to an accountant about that. They should be able to tell you. Do you need to incorporate, form a company? I was a sole proprietor for a long time because where I was, the price of incorporating made it not worth doing. Moved someplace else where that all changed. I incorporated. But once you incorporate, there's a lot of stuff you got to do. Talk to your accountant. That's why you have one, because the laws are different every place you go. And who do you want to sell with? This list has changed a lot. You got to ask yourself these questions. I would say Amazon is good. Barnes & Noble, maybe. Depends. You got to know what the sales demographic is for these places. It depends what you're writing, okay? I'm in Amazon, and I'm pretty much exclusive with them these days because of Kindle Unlimited. We'll talk more about that later. But I have done work with Barnes & Noble, who weren't bad. Smashwords, hit or miss. Didn't make a lot of money there. Direct to Digital, I'm starting to deal with them a bit, but they have issues with the way they do certain things. Drives you up the wall. Kobo are the kids that couldn't. Maybe one of these days they'll grow up and be a real company. I don't know. You never want to do business with Apple directly. Never, ever, ever. And if you're going to, not only get the contract, hire a lawyer, let them go over the contract. Apple is known for deceptive and predatory business practices that are insane. Google used to do business with them, but they became problematic. Google does some things which are just stupid and obnoxious and will make your life difficult. And these days, they all require contract, and always read the contract. Like I said, read the contract. Read it, read it, read it. If you don't understand it, don't agree to it. You'll be held accountable to it. You can be taken to court for violations of the contract. You can be banned from the place you're doing business with it and never allowed back if you violate the contract. Just about all the problems you will have between you and the vendor, 90% of the time, maybe 99% of the time, is because you didn't follow the contract rules you agreed to. I've seen this so many times where people were complaining and complaining, and it's because they were violating the contract, because they couldn't be bothered to read it, or they thought they were special. You know, understand, the bookseller's your partner. They're there to make money just like you are. Don't try to screw them, because they got more lawyers than you, they got more money than you, and if it gets into a dick sizing contest, guess who's going to get knocked into the dirt? You. So try to be good. It's not to say there won't be screw ups or problems or anything else, but understand that's the price of doing business. And don't try to mess with them. Don't try to scam with them. Not if you want to be an author. Being an author and being a scammer are two completely different things. If you're just doing this because you think you can get rich quick, you know what? Leave now, because you ain't. Business questions. Yeah, these are things that are important. I mean, I have an office now. I have dedicated equipment because I'm full-time. Keep your receipts. Even if it's a hobby, keep your receipts. Business expenses are deductible. And again, that's why you have an accountant. If you formed a company, you may need to do a payroll, and you may need to do reporting and all this stuff. And last but not least, what's your goal as a business? And it's to get paid. All right? If you're doing this as a business, it's to get paid. If you're writing as a hobby, yeah, unless you're doing it professionally, then you're writing for enjoyment. But if once you start doing the business side of things, you're doing this to make money. Other questions. Do you want to be in Kindle Unlimited? There are rules to this. You don't have to have all your books in. You can just have some, but you're going to be exclusive. Those are the rules. Amazon Advantage, I don't know if this program still exists. I was offered it a long time ago. Basically, Amazon would warehouse for you on your print books, which made a lot of things easy, but there were other drawbacks to it, and you had to maintain a certain inventory, which means you have money sitting in a warehouse somewhere in Amazon. And again, it had pluses and minuses. It depended on your volume of print books. Amazon Associates, anybody I think just about can do this, but it's something to look into, because if you have a web page, you have links to your books, you can do it through Amazon Associates, and then anybody uses that link, anything from the rest of that browsing session, and for a period of time I do not recall after that, you get a percentage of, because you drove them to Amazon. So it's an Amazon sales thing. And it can be good for a little extra money. So, where's the profit? I mean, there's profit. That's why you're doing this, right? Well, first, what publishing tasks must you do? And it's all of them. You do everything. You're a one-man band. Now, do you need an editor? That's a good question. Do you want one? Can you afford one? Understand there are different types of editors too. Developmental all the way down to copying. I don't like developmental editors. I've written about this before. I think if you can't figure out what to write, you shouldn't be writing. If you can't figure out how to write, you shouldn't be writing. Now, you can teach yourself the latter of those two, but if you can't figure out what to write, why are you even thinking of doing it? I mean, you've got to have the story you want to tell stories. If you want to get better at telling your stories, or you want help with learning how to tell your stories, well, practice telling your stories. That's a good thing. You need to find your own voice. That's a very important part of being a writer, is finding your own voice and finding your own style. Now, in the beginning, you're going to need an editor, I'm sure, but you're probably not going to be able to afford one, especially if you're new. And you don't want to go investing more money into a book than you expect to make off of it, because you're here to make money. Now, copy editors, I mean, depending, they're mostly typo and grammar and stuff like that. And they usually charge by the word. And you're going to be looking at a minimum of $200. Do you want to put that money in there? I mean, can you trade services with somebody for that? Can you get a bunch of people to read it for you? Beta readers, they're a great benefit, especially if you can't afford an editor. And remember, you can always come back and re-edit the book later with an editor if you become very successful. If the book takes off, if the book does well, take some of the profits, go back, get it edited, and re-put it, and just repub it. You can do that with ebooks. But the point I want to make is you don't want to be spending more on a book than you're going to make. There's a lot of tools out there, and there are people who will help you. Take advantage of them. But if you're going to do this as a business, you don't want to be losing money. Nothing is going to hurt more than spending thousands of dollars on a book that sells 10 copies. You're starting out. You're not going to sell a lot at first. That's part of the business. So you don't want to go broke just while you're learning. Formatting. Read the Smashwords Style Guide. You should be able to find it. I think I have a link to it on my website. Even with Smashwords being folded in D2D, hopefully it's out there somewhere. The Smashwords Style Guide is without a doubt the most important ebook thing you can read, because it's all ebooks go into what they used to call the meat grinder. I don't know what they call it now. It's the formatted to the particular ebook format that whatever publisher it is uses. And this stuff isn't hard. It's not rocket science, but it's the standard, and it makes it look like the books you're going to pick off the shelves, which is the standard. It makes everything easy, and you can set up your Word editor or whatever program you use to write in to automatically format everything into that. That's how I do it. I have a standard draft format I use. I write all my books in it, so I don't have to worry about just about any of this. It's all done for me. Now, I used to have to do it myself. Formatting your text for publishing. You have your title page with a layout, your disclaimer and copyright page, which has all the disclaimers, and you need those. They're there for legal reasons. Chapter headings. What are you going to use? How are you going to make it look? Paragraphs. Your indent. No line spacing, please. I know there are people who do it and they swear by it, and a lot of people do it because they think, oh, it's going to make my book bigger and I'm going to get more. No. Amazon's wise to all that crap, so is everybody else. Don't use tabs. They cause more problems than you can possibly imagine. Nobody uses tabs, by the way. Even in the publishing industry, they don't use tabs. They do indents. First line, all lines, whatever. Again, read the Smashwords Style Guide. It will make your life easier. Oh, by no line spacing, I mean set single line. Don't go double or 1.5 or any of that. It makes it harder for people to read your book. It also makes it harder for you to do certain standard publishing tricks that everybody in the industry has been using for the last 100 years. Here's an example of a title page. Very simple. Disclaimer and copyright page. You can copy this if you need to. The license notes comes from the Smashwords Style Guides. Exactly, word for word. Disclaimer and copyright page. Again, that's pretty standardized from everybody. This is how I set my paragraphs up. Like I said, my first line I have an indent. I use 0.3. A lot of people use 0.5. You can see in the little example, it's how it looks. That's all I really set. Now, why do you need a cover? Because covers sell the book. If you want to know what good covers look like, go into the bookstore, go on Amazon, look at a bunch of books. There's been millions and millions of dollars spent on cover design studies. Well, you can just go look and see what everybody else does and copy it. All that stuff is very, very standard. And look at what the other authors are using. The goal of a cover is to get people to stop and read your blurb. And when you're on Amazon, that cover is going to be tiny when people are scrolling through things. So don't look for fine art. Fine art has no place on a cover. Where do you find cover artists? Like I said, they're out there all over the place. Check their examples. Talk to other authors. How much should you pay? What can you afford? Personally, I don't think you should be spending thousands of dollars or even $1,000. I know people who do. They don't spend thousands. They spend about $1,000 or $2,000. And they have really beautiful covers. And yeah, for them, they work great. Also, I think at this point, their fans expect it. But In the beginning, make your own when you're starting out, or buy pre-made covers. They can often be gotten for $50. You don't want to spend more than you expect to make. When I started out, I made my own covers because I'm learning the business. You're learning the business. You're learning the art. You're learning all sorts of things. And you can make a good cover. You make it simple. Again, you're just trying to get people to read your blurb. Get something, picture you took, or a picture that was public domain you grabbed. Go with that. You don't want to spend a fortune because you don't want to go into debt, especially not on your first book. So, can we talk about making money now? Maybe. How do you release your book? Every vendor has their own uploading process, and they're all similar. You upload your book, you upload the cover, and basically you push the button. Now, first off, some places will let you set a release date. Some will allow it to go for immediate release once processing is finished. Used to take days for that. Now it can happen in hours. If you're new, though, it's usually going to take longer because they'll look at you a little harder because you're new, and they're always worried about scammers. Setting release date or going immediate release, there's pros and cons to both. I typically go for immediate release these days. There's a number of reasons for that. A lot of it has to do with what a bunch of scammers done to the setting a release date. And they caused a lot of problems and issues, and some of those I don't want to deal with these days. But for the most part, go through, you set that all up, you determine that, and then you do your pricing. Sounds easy, right? Now that you've pushed the button, now what? Sales and marketing, of course. There's always sales and marketing. And the first rule of doing this, and this is important, is take off your author hat. I have heard people go on and on and on about how they can't do this, they can't do that, the story this, the story that. Look, once you press the button, the author was an asshole and you don't want anything to do with that idiot. Push him out the door, lock it. We're marketing now. We're selling now. We're here to make money. We want people to read the damn book. If people aren't reading the book, why are they writing it? Yeah, the author's going to come in and yell at you and scream at you. Don't listen to them. They have no say in this process. The second they turned the book over to be published, the author left the room. Stop thinking of an author if you want to do this successfully. You've got to start thinking of sales and marketing. Now, how much can you do? How much pre-release, if you're doing a time thing, should you do? Should you have a release party? How much should you spend on sales and marketing? These are pretty important questions. And these are ones that you're going to have to decide for yourself because it's very much an individual thing. Look around at what other people are doing and don't be afraid to take cues or copy how other people do it. And understand that marketing changes constantly. It's dynamic. It is always changing how you market. The whole thing of banner ads has changed drastically. It used to be all these companies that did it, and then Google and Facebook ran all those companies out of business. And I think there's still a lawsuit going on over that because they did it by unfair business practices. But doesn't matter. Banner ads are gone. Try buying Google banner ads. Yeah, good luck with that. Unless you have an ad agency working for you, that gets really difficult. Sales partners, advertisers. Again, most websites have ads. The advertising services that sell banner ads, except for Google AdWords, they're gone. And Google AdWords I don't even know how to get through to sell with banner ads with them anymore. They'll just put you on their search page. Facebook does advertising. If you want to go there, by all means do, but learn how to do it because it used to be a mess. I think it's better now. Book promoters. Okay, a lot of those sites are gone now. A number of them were scammers and engaging in things they shouldn't. But there's other promoters out there. There's influencers. There's people online that read books and do reviews. See if you can engage some of them. Do your research. BookBub, I think, is still one of the best. Just be careful because unethical advertisers can get you banned from Amazon. So do some research. Understand, it can be a bit of a minefield sometimes if you go with anybody who's small. Physical advertising, when you're starting out, this is awesome. Poster. postcard-sized ads, business cards. These are good for conventions. You can hang the posters. They always have boards to put them on. The postcard-sized ads, they've got tables you can drop stuff on and leave things. Business cards are good for those too. They're good for handouts. When you're trying to build following, yeah, those things are good. And don't be afraid to leave them at other places where businesses allow cards or allow ads or any of that. Just try not to go too wild with it, but do it. This is why I had or still have a color printer so I could create these things. Social media, yeah. Social media is about promoting. And you need to have a presence. This is beyond good at this point. You have to have a presence. Facebook, Twitter, which is now X, all those places. You need to be in those places. Mailing lists. I think that's pretty explanatory right up there. It's to gain control over your advertising. It's to gain control over who you're selling to. Different ways of doing it, but you can advertise directly. How to sign people up. You know, I sell a lot, but my mailing list, comparatively speaking, is like less than 1% of the people who buy my books. Drives me crazy. And then these people complain to me about, well, Amazon never told me your new book was out. Well, yeah, because you let Amazon run your life. You should have signed up for the mailing list. If you have a favorite author, get on their mailing list. But ways to get people, offer free books, exclusive content, there's a lot of ways. And you can look around. Do's and don'ts, don't spam your subscribers or they'll put you into the spam box. Do put up a legal disclaimer that you won't sell your reading list. That's important because if you don't, people are going to think you do it or going to do it. And I think you can still get in trouble for doing it even if you don't mention that you're not going to or say that you are or any of that or just don't say anything. Exercise caution when joining other mailing lists. Do not join ones that require you to share yours because they're just going to sell it. That's the whole reason they're there. It's a scam. There are so many scammers in this business. I mean, they make drug dealers look honest and reliable. And here we are, social media, blog. Yeah, have one. Put a link in the back of your book. Also link to your Amazon page. If you're going to be on Amazon, have an Amazon authors page. Definitely got to set one of those up. Put your email everywhere. Readers will reach out to you. And they do. Author Central, that's the Amazon thing. You got to be in that if you're on Amazon. Facebook, again, social media. Got to be there. Twitter, now X, got to be there. Goodreads. I'd use it. It's been hit or miss on and off. It used to be a really bad place to be. It's better now. Ever since Amazon bought it, they cleaned it up a bit. But you will see a lot of your Amazon reviews mirrored on Goodreads and vice versa. Why? I don't know if this is Amazon's doing or just people copying the same thing and putting it there. Nice thing in Goodreads, though, is you can respond to reviews and engage. And sometimes it's a good laugh. Now, pricing strategies. This is huge. Pay attention. Okay, when I first started, $2.99 to $3.99 was the sweet spot. Now it's starting to look like it's $3.99 to $4.99. If you're new, you shouldn't be putting anything up at $3.99. $2.99 probably is even still where you want to be. You want eyeballs. You want readers. You want volume. Okay, you will make more off of 1,000 books at $2.99 than 100 books at $4.99. Understand, this is simple business. I've seen a lot of people put books at $9.99 if they sold 5, and it was a miracle. And those are probably only to friends, because no one is going to spend top author money for a newbie or a nobody. All right, I built my business on $2.99. for the longest time, and $3.99 as things went on. I was one of the last name ebook authors to move into the $4.99 spot, okay? And I made bank because lots of people told me, I only looked at your books because they were $2.99, I wasn't sure. Then I went and bought the whole series because I'm like, hey, this is good. So starting with a low price is very, very helpful. It's going to build your career. It's going to get you eyeballs reading your stuff. Now, I don't think I have anything at $2.99. I've upped all my prices to $3.99. I've actually started on one of my new series going with $5.99 because with inflation, a lot of people are moving that way. But I still have the majority of my works at $3.99 and $4.99. More $4.99 now than $3.99. But I have a rep. I can do that. You're starting out. You don't have a rep. You're a nobody. Have some humility. You're not famous. You're not going to get famous author prices. You're not published by one of the big, well, I think it's Big Five now. Do not expect those kind of prices. And again, simple math. Because once you're at $2.99 and up, you're getting 70% of the price. Anything, well, minus shipping. Anything below that, you get 30%. There is, let's see, yeah, I talk about it here. Okay, pricing strategies, 99 cents can work for you, especially as a sale. Trying to put a book in at 99 cents, you're not going to get traction because people are going to say, well, why aren't they charging more? Aren't they good? Short stories, it does well. $1.99, I think it's still invisible. For the longest time, nobody looked at $1.99 books. $1.25 books did well. As a matter of fact, I think I've moved most of my 99 centers to $1.25. For some reason, people like that price. It's weird. Pricing can be strange. There's a lot of psychology involved with it. And remember, 10,000 downloads of a free book equals 0 and few, if any, sales. Don't give your work away, all right? Sales, even sales, don't give your books away for free. There are people who will swear up and down it's great. Yeah, I know what the fuck they're talking about. Oops, so pardon my English there. They don't, all right? You're not going to make money on free books. They just don't bring you anywhere. Loss leaders, tricky subject. I'm pretty sure I go into that here on the next page or something. But you're there to be paid. Yeah, a lot of people download free books. I've talked to people who had over 10,000 free books on their Kindles, and they never read a single one. They grabbed it because it's free, but then they never read it. I mean, yeah, I was once, the best-selling free book author in Germany. Never got me a sale there, though. So again, don't do it. I've tried it. It doesn't work. Oh, and yeah, pricing in other genres can be different, and it's definitely different for known authors. Yeah, loss leaders. Loss leaders don't work. Everybody says they do. I've done the research. I've priced them out. They don't work. Maybe in other genres, but in science fiction, fantasy, urban fantasy, even some of the romance ones, they don't work. Because they're not going to gain you enough readers to make up for the money you lost. Even if those people go through the series, it's not going to make up enough money for the money you lost. Free giveaways, limited to time. It's tricky. I don't like it. It's never really done much for me money-wise. It hasn't made me more money. Sales work great. Series entry points especially. Again, doesn't work if no one knows about it, but I have had sales work very, very well for me. Limited sales, like a week-long sale. Those work. And because it's a sale, you're not giving it away. And every once in a while, Amazon may even ask you to do a special sale. You won't, upfront sales money you'll make less, but long-term, and all the other books in a series, and getting your name out there, yeah, when Amazon promotes you, or asks to promote you, yeah, go along with it. It usually works out well. I've honestly never seen it not. And if you can coordinate your sales with other authors, yeah, that can be really good. Get on a page with other people selling books, get into some kind of a coordinated thing. That can help a lot because it's going to draw you new eyeballs. Finally, right, you're going to be making so much money, you'll be drowning in it all. Now, they've done all those things, and you're making money, and you want to look into other things. Print on demand, formatting for print. There's still multiple vendors out there. Ingram is the big one. Draft2 Digital is actually moving into the space, and apparently they're doing well. I know people who are starting to look at them very seriously. Amazon does it, but Amazon can be hit or miss. I'm not familiar with any of the rest of those. Ingram and Amazon are currently the only POD supported by multiple vendors. Well, this isn't true. Draft2 Digital is starting to get that support too. Oh, on print with Amazon, don't go for extended distribution. It ain't worth the money. Trust me on that. Now, I did a whole presentation on how to format. So I'm going to blow through this pretty quick. If you really want to know, go look at that. Doesn't take long, in my opinion. But then I've been doing it for 13 years. Those are just the overall for 6x9 layouts. I also do 5x8s. I go over it in the other presentation. So again, notes, these are on my website somewhere. I've got links for it so you can download it. It's linked on the video, I believe. I'll have to make sure it's on the website too. Audiobooks. Yeah, this hasn't changed at all. You all remember Brandon Sanderson? Yeah, he was just doing that thing for the money. Once Audible gave him what he wanted, he folded, went with them. And all those little places he got to try to take on Amazon, yeah. I mean, Audible, who's owned by Amazon, yeah, don't expect them to stick around. They're going to go out of business. They are the biggest game in town. Do not trust them ever, because they've been caught in so many scandals and scams. It's insane, but they're the only game in town. They sell like 99% of all the audiobooks out there. You have 3 choices when going with them. Royalty share. You split royalties with the voice artist. If you don't have money, it's a good place to start, because you got to pay that VA, voice artist or voice actor, up front. And it can be up to $400 a recorded hour. Do not let anyone charge you for anything but recorded hours. And honestly, you're starting out, do not pay over $400 an hour. I have a really good artist right now. I think I'm paying $200 an hour for her. I've been with her for years now. She's great. If I do dual narration, I got to pay both artists for the full length of the book, because that's just the way it works, because they both record the whole book, and then one of them edits it all together at different voices. But if you royalty share, again, you don't have to pay that. If you pay them up front, you get all the royalties, but you have to lay out that money. And that money, depending on the size of your book, and you can look up places how many words per hour it normally runs. You know, you're going to lay out a couple grand minimum. You could lay out up to $5,000 or $6,000. The advantage of paying for it up front is you have more control over the book. You can at any time say, I'm taking this book wide, because you're signing a 7-year contract with Audible, though supposedly they'll let you take it down earlier now. But you can't take it down earlier and take it somewhere else. You can't go wide if you're doing a royalty share, because that's the contract. I sell everything that I write under my own name that's an audiobook. I sell them now via my website and on BookFunnel, because I make more money that way, because I've been scammed by Audible too many times. I don't like them. Other people have had better success with them. Me personally, I'm not the best source on audiobooks. I don't listen to them. I'm not a huge fan of them. Now, stuff I have contracted with an outside publisher. That, you sign an agreement. I use Podium Publishing. They record and market your book. You sign an agreement. You give them the book. You don't pay them a dime. They take care of everything. You can give them a copy of the cover so they can use that or come up with their own. I've had them do both. You get a percentage of the royalty. Now, they take more of the royalty than if you did a royalty share, because they're doing a lot more work. They're doing all the marketing. They're doing everything. They're hiring the actors. You know, they're doing the whole 9 yards. I'm okay with that, because, again, I'm not a big audio person book. The only reason I even do audiobooks is for my fans. If my fans weren't bugging me for them, I wouldn't do them. Podium's made me a lot of money. The ones I've done myself, not so much. And a thing on audiobooks to understand, if the voice actor you're hiring is going to broadcast their recording of the audiobook on their Discord channel, then tell them they're working for free, because they are making money off of it. Never, ever allow any voice artist you're paying to do or to put that book out anywhere. They've got fans who like to watch them work live. Yeah, no. I had someone do that to me once, and I barely made enough money to pay them back, and they were not cheap, because all their fans watch them do it on Discord or watch the replays. So why would they buy my book when they can just watch her do it? And it tanked the book. It tanked the sales. Because she got so big that suddenly I went to her Discord and they weren't buying her books anymore. Or buying the books that other authors were paying her for anymore. So, got to pay attention to what goes on. Lawyers, you're going to need one. There's a good YouTube thing on YouTube. Adam Savage has even gone over this. It's called Fuck You, Pay Me. Watch it. Seriously, it's important. If you're creative and you haven't seen it, you need to see it. And you need to watch it regularly. I watch it every couple of years. Because you need a lawyer. If you become successful, you will need a lawyer. I have 6. And one of them's in Europe. I got one in Washington State. I got 4 here in Texas. And I got a retired one in California. You're going to need them. Nothing gets a cease and desist or a DMCA paid more attention to than if it came from a lawyer. If you have issues with Amazon, someone's claiming you're doing something you shouldn't be, or you see someone plagiarizing you on Amazon, you need a lawyer to talk to them. Amazon has a special channel for lawyers to talk to them. Someone's doing stuff, putting your stuff up on YouTube, is not supposed to be there. YouTube ain't going to listen to you. They'll listen to your lawyer, though. 30 minutes or less, they'll deal with it. Lawyers make you money. This is a simple fact of life. Lawyers make you money because they take care of all this stuff for you. And it's a tax write-off. Remember, this is a business. Your legal expenses are a write-off. Keep track of all your expenses. Keep a file. I do. I actually have an online file, so I can just send it to my accountant. But you need a lawyer. People are going to threaten to sue you. You need a lawyer. Things to keep in mind, though. It costs $10,000 to go to court. That's not an exaggeration. That's civil court. Any major court case is going to cost you probably at least $40,000. It's $20,000 or more to walk into a federal court, and I've done it. Okay, I have dropped over $100,000 on a single case. It is not fun. It is heartburn. But sometimes you have no choice. You got to do it. And you're never going to get that money back. But it's the lost sales and everything else that are going to make you the money back when all that crap goes away, especially when someone is ripping you off for major amounts of money. File copyright on all your books. You don't have to do it immediately. I do it once a year. I do mine in basically the spring of every year. I file everything I've written prior. It helps tremendously. It helps, especially if you got to go to court. It helps if Amazon starts bugging you for proof about, oh, did you write this? You send them the number for the copyright. Right there. Shuts that argument down immediately. Now, if you can file in Canada, do so as well, because there's a thing called the Berne Convention, and it's where everybody honors each other's copyrights. Yeah, Canada doesn't do it. They've signed it. They're supposed to, but they don't. Canadian government is made up of assholes. And when it comes to any kind of copyright thing, Canada will side with its citizen over you. Even though you have a copyright that predates everything, and also going to court in Canada, financially it's not going to be worth it. But there are other things you can do. Taxes. Yeah. Okay, you need a 1099 at the every year from each publisher. Unless you've incorporated, then you get nothing. You have to keep track yourself. And understand, the government is very much keeping track. All these things are electronic. The government keeps track of all that stuff. Your bank reports it. The people sending it out reports it. So you need to keep track of this. I recommend if you incorporate, get a business account, have all your monies poured into one account. Then you can just print up the statement at the end of the year, go through and knock off all the things that aren't you being paid, and you have a good record of how much money you made. You do have to 1099 anybody you buy anything from if you buy more than $600 unless they're in another country. And this includes your lawyers. This includes any of those business stores out there you go through and buy stuff from. I can't even remember the name of them. The place that sells chairs and whiteboards and ink, all that crap. Again, all expenses are deductible. Keep a record. Again, get an accountant. Don't use TurboTax. Don't use H&R Block. You will lose money, and they will not represent you if the IRS comes calling. And they will. So if you got an accountant, you just turn them over to the accountant. They clean everything up. Doesn't cost you a dime. Not your problem. Now again, talk to your accountant about whether or not it's worth incorporating. There are extra costs, and there are no real benefits in a lot of it. If you make enough money, you'll have to pay quarterly, or you'll be fined. It's not a huge fine. My brother, who's in another business, he just pays the fine. It's easier for him. He just pays it every year. But make sure you set money aside, because it's going to be a lot. And you will be paying a higher tax rate, self-employment tax, on royalties, just the way it works. Selling in Europe, VAT. Okay, value-added tax. If you're in Europe and you're doing this, man, don't even ask me what the tax law's on there. I haven't a clue. It used to be with some vendors, you had to add the VAT to your price. It was hidden from the buyer, and it was taken out. Every country has a different rate. Nowadays, as far as I know, everybody handles it for you, but it used to be they didn't. So pay attention to that. Don't poke the bear. Okay, I've mentioned this before. Don't piss off Amazon. They will gut you like a fish. TradPub authors do get better treatment from Amazon, regardless of sales. Now, understand I'm a 7-figure author with Amazon. They treated me like crap. There were people there who hated me. I was dealing with stuff constantly. And this is after going through a major lawsuit that made Amazon money. So the people in corporate law, the corporate law office at Amazon loved me because they made money off of me. And I think they're friends with my lawyers now. However, once I became traditionally published, all of it went away. All of it. I don't know if this is because I won that big lawsuit and made Amazon tons of money, or if it's because I'm TradPub, but I've seen with other TradPub authors, hybrid authors who are indie and TradPub, as soon as they start getting TradPub sales out there, they also got better treatment. Amazon is the only game in town, period. People talk about going wide. You'll make more money in KU, but it's worth experimenting with if you have some things you don't want to be in KU and taking them wide. But you're going to make more money from Amazon. They're over 90% of the market. So don't mess with them. Otherwise, you're going to have a very hard road to hoe. And unless you are already very popular, you're going to be in tremendous amounts of trouble. Now, most problems with Amazon are probably your own fault. However, there are people at Amazon who will risk their jobs to screw you. There are also people at Amazon who can be bribed to screw with you. This is a fact. It is well known. It's been reported on many, many times. And it goes on heavily on the regular products page. So yeah, anything that goes on there. Half the scams on Amazon on the regular product page started in the writing stuff. Remember, Amazon started out as a bookstore. And there have just been so many scams that people have done. And some of the famous writers who now work for Amazon directly as authors started out based on scams. They use scams to get ahead. Keep an eye on your KU numbers. I don't do this as much anymore as I should, but if in KU you are a high volume author, if you're doing 2 or more books a month, you don't want to be in KU. You don't. You don't want to be there, because if they see you selling too much, they're going to think you're a scammer. Or they're going to think you're scamming. So, I mean, I have put out 2 in a month. It's not common for me. 1 a month is usually my best rate. But I've seen people get in trouble who are high volume authors. So you got to be careful about that. And this is the argument about whether or not to be in KU. I pulled books out of KU because there were people in KU who didn't like them. And all my problems with that particular book went away the second I pulled them out of KU and just left them regular Amazon. Still had good sales. So it was worth it because I didn't want to have this bleed over into other stuff. This is KU, and dealing with that stuff is probably going to be your biggest source of agita when dealing in this market. Scammers. You've heard me mention these people many times. That's from Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. If you haven't seen it, it's a great flick. Money flows to the author. Okay? Cardinal rule. It's like water flowing downhill. Never agree to anything else. Do your research before doing business with anybody. Read the contract. And anyone who says they can help you publish, but you got to pay money. You got to do this. Pay money. Pay money. No, they're a scam. They're scammers. They're scum. Don't do business with them. Money flows to the author. Any real publisher is looking to take you on to make money. Because usually the worst person played by any publishing company, and the small presses are better about this, but all the big presses, the author makes the least amount of money of everyone involved in the process. Okay? And even they don't make you pay anything up front. They pay you. You don't get as much as the editor gets paid or anybody else, but that's trad pub. It's been that way for over a century. Right to market. Yeah. Not a good idea. The biggest problem with the right to market is you sit there and you're coming in and you're saying, I don't know anything about this market. I'm going to basically get an idea how it works. And I'm going to just rip everybody's ideas off, rip everybody's plots off, rip everything off and do as much ripping off as I can without doing so much I get accused of plagiarism. But you still might get sued. And the biggest problem is you're not going to make money at it, really. You're not going to make a name. You're not going to get successful because you're just trying to write to a market that you think is big, that you think you'll make money off of it. Now, if you get successful, you will be ripped off by them. Yeah, ask me how I know. I've been ripped off. Half of a genre out there is all people are WTMing off of me. Okay, I have actually started freaking tropes or memes or whatever the heck you want to call them for stories. And several of my friends are in the same boat because we were successful and everybody ripped us off. But a lot of these people, all they're doing really is crapping all over everything. Their books aren't good and they drive away fans. So unless you have a fan base, it's bad for everyone else. And they also kind of flood out the new people who have a genuine desire to write in a particular market because they know it and they love it and they want to take their own spin on it. The only way to do it, like I was just saying, is it has to be a market that you know. It has to be something you love. Don't keep creating new pen names because pen names will not allow people to follow you. I have one pen name I use. I did it for brand separation. I told everyone about it. I was pretty upfront about it. And it was also I could do market separation. They're very clear and obvious because it's the second, it's just my last name reversed. That was the whole reason I did it. It worked out well for me. I have friends who've done it. It's worked out well for them. It's to show brand separation. But the whole idea of writing is to generate a following. And if you're writing to market and creating pen names every time you switch markets, no one's ever going to follow you. Of course, you're probably not any good at it, and you don't want them to know about you because you don't want people to discount you out of hand, which is, again, why not to just really do it. The best way to be successful in any kind of a right to market is to create your own market and then write in it. I've done it. I've seen it done. These are just ways to go forward. Is come up with your own brand, your own name, your own everything, and just go forth and conquer. If you want to write in a market that exists, don't do it unless you love it, and don't go to a market just to make money, because if you don't love what you're doing, it shows. Sales in different genres. Science fiction is the smallest and the weakest of all. It's almost dead. It's making a comeback. This has to do with the Big Five marketing thing where they decided to stop targeting the people who read science fiction, majority men market, and start forcing them to go after women and all the books to be writing for women and everything else. Well, women don't, as a rule, read science fiction. It's like 10% of the readers in that market are women. Most women are just not into sci-fi. It's a fact of life. So they just about killed it. Indie is bringing it back because you got a bunch of guys who are like, I want to read stories for guys. I don't want to read things about uber women, ultra strong women, everything this, that, and the guys are just these pathetic little weaklings or anti-heroes or just nobody you want to read anything about. And it's funny too because I think even in science fiction, the majority of authors are women. Fantasy is a medium and steady field. Again, and this has a broad appeal. Women, men, everybody likes fantasy. Different aspects of the dynamics, different marketing niches or whatever you have, demographics, that's what I'm putting. Different marketing demographics will like different aspects of fantasy. And you'll see different ones sell differently to different groups. It's hard to tell those. You can get crossover. I write urban fantasy is one of my things. Small but growing. I did not know until I went to convention that half my readers were women. I thought all my readers were men because I was writing for men. Turns out a lot of women like stories written for men, and because they want that strong male lead. And that was a shock to me. So these are things you'll learn as you target different fields. Paranormal romance, I don't even know where that is right now. That started off with, what's her name? The gal doing the detective girl. I forget it at the moment. Her and a few other people pretty much started that field. I don't know where it is right now. It was huge for a while. Mostly women read paranormal romance, and by mostly women, I'd say 60 to 70%. It has a strong male following too, though. It was very, very popular, and I suspect it still is. Detective mysteries, these do well. More women, again, read them than men. Horror thriller, almost exclusively women. Most women read horror. It's like, I think 90% of the market is women. And again, 90% of the writers, I think, in horror are women. Detective mystery, a lot of the writers in that are female too. And romance is huge, and that's where the real money is. And there are a fair number of men writing in romance under either their own names or under female pen names. I did it for a little while. I just found that while I liked it for a little bit, it wasn't what I really wanted to do. But if you want to learn to write, oh man, write romance. Romance readers are quick to come back with reviews and tell you where you did well and where you did bad. I'm still friends with a fair amount of romance authors. They even had me speak at one of their conventions once. Romance is a good field, but those are really different genres, and you have to check the demographics. And for a long time, men were being pushed out of the reading side of publishing. Men stopped reading. That's why video games and everything came so big. Men went into video games because a lot of politics got involved and a lot of targeting got involved. And that's changing now because there are a lot of people who are indie authors who are writing what they want to write. And that's drawn a lot of men back to the field. But it's still, you got to understand that the majority of your readers are probably going to be women. And again, you're going to find the majority of the writers out there are women. It's just the way the market is. And nothing wrong with that. It's just, those are the facts of life. So don't yell at me for saying these things, but these are the facts of life. And I did not know any of this when I started writing. I was under a very different impression about how all this worked. Professionalism and politics. Don't go where the scammers go. Those groups are watched. And if you upset a scammer, they'll come after you. And there, again, I should have went into this more. There are scammers in every aspect of this business. All right, it's worse than the California gold rush. It's worse. I mean, like I said before, drug dealers treat each other better than a lot of this business does. There are scammers everywhere in writing, and there are all these get-rich-quick people who are always trying to put books out there and scam everyone because for some reason they believe that writing is simple. And now we've got ChatGPT and all that crap, and we're going to get spammed with all those books. Actually, there's like 10,000 a day get published right now, and I'm not lying about that figure. That's from Amazon. These people seem to think they're going to get rich quick, and you will never get rich quick as a writer. All those one-hit wonders you see that came out of nowhere. I mean, there's a huge one about this kid who wrote this book. No, Those are all marketing. All right. There were teams that wrote those books, ghostwriters, this, that, and everything else. Maybe the person who they're touting had a thought or an idea, but it was all ghostwritten and promoted. And you'll notice that, there were marketing people heavily involved from the get-go. Like, oh, his father is the head of a big marketing firm. Yeah. That's how it works. It's just like a lot of these political books written by famous... No, they didn't write them. They had a ghostwriter do them. You think they got time for that? They don't care. Those are political payoffs for the most part. It's another kind of scam. It's a money scam for the politicians. But you want to stay away from all that as far as you can, because you don't want guilt by association and you don't want to get burned. Don't burn bridges. Treat people with respect, and if somebody screws up by accident or a deal falls apart, don't be an ass about it. News travels. Yeah, there's somebody out there who me and a bunch of authors, even though they're getting popular now, will not do business with because they were an ass to us. And so some of the biggest names in the ebook industry out there won't deal with them because they were an ass to us. And they didn't have to be. And, if you screw up, apologize. Be sincere. It's just not worth it. Again, as I was saying, there are a lot of very vicious and unscrupulous bastards in this business. People have been physically assaulted. Okay? I know somebody got his leg broke. This stuff happens. I've gotten death threats, all right? And it's not hard to figure out where I live. Don't leave bad reviews. Just don't. You're an author now. Leave good reviews, yes. Maybe Amazon won't delete them. They don't like authors reviewing authors. But don't leave bad reviews. It will bite you on the ass every time. You just don't want to do that thing. Okay, we're just about done here. Title, shorter the better. Writing your blurb. Writing good blurbs is hard. Trust me on this, it's hard. Look at others, emulate, try to see how everybody else is doing it, and triple check it. Because, you don't want to drive readers away with a mistake. Keywords. Amazon's been changing this a lot. Some of what's on here is now not the way it works anymore. You're still limited to 7 entries. Some people put multiple words in theirs. I've heard people talk about it. I've only ever used one because originally that was all you could use. Now people use phrases and stuff. Good and bad. I've had success doing it my way, so I'm not going to change. This list no longer exists. But it used to be these keywords got you into these fields automatically, the groups. Because you can pick 3 now. Used to be you could only pick 2. Actually, I think maybe you can pick more. They've changed it. Used to be you only got putting 2 up front. And then you could send them an email and get them to put you in another 10. They did away with that just recently, last year I believe it was. This is still kind of good, though, to keep in mind what kind of keywords is going to drop you into what fields. Though Amazon does a lot of it on their own now, too. It all comes down to trying to target your book to your customers. You used to be you only could pick 2 of these at the time of making your book. Now you can pick 3. I should probably do a video walking through the setup page as well. That won't take too long. And then you would choose a word in your keywords after getting dropped into one of those categories, and it would expand it out into other fields, as you can see in that other thing. Amazon's been changing that lately, though. I don't know how well that currently works. In conclusion, you're in business to get paid, Larry Correia. Exposure is what you die from when you don't get paid. I have a t-shirt that says that. I don't know who that quote came from. The solution to poor sales is to write the next book. Sarah Hoyt taught me that, and she was right. And that is key. Your first book, sales are going to suck. Same for your second book, probably your third. You're not going to start getting traction until you have a few books out there and people start seeing your name and they go start reading your back catalog. It's the whole reason for having a back catalog. And that's why you don't want to use a lot of pen names, because that catalog will make you money. Overnight success is rare. incredibly rare. The few people who've done it, who have had it, they put an unbelievable amount of work into it. More than you can imagine. Writers write. Keep writing. The more you write, the better you will get. It's exercise. This is a business. You need to treat it as one if you wish to be successful. Key line here, this is not a competition. You are not in a competition. That's a mantra. You are not in a competition. You are not competing with the other writers out there. You are not. It is impossible for one person to write enough books that nobody needs to read anything else. You cannot satisfy any one person's reading habit unless they read so incredibly slow, slower than you write. Most people are going to be reading a lot more books than you're capable of putting out. You just can't. So you're not in a competition. Don't think of it as a competition. You're more of in a partnership. Promoting other people will help you. Saying nice things about other people will help you. Because you say good things about people, you promote other people, more folks are going to come and see who you recommend. Also, those other people, they're going to be thankful. They're going to recommend you back. No, you want to be friends, you want to be good. This is very much one of those things where being good to people will pay dividends and being bad to people will hurt you. And again, never pay anyone to publish your book. I've said this so many times, and I've somebody I know who knows I am a top-selling indie author just recently paid somebody, I don't know how much money to publish their book. And I'm like, why didn't you call me? I would have walked you through it. So, for the most part, that's it. There will be no questions because, of course, this is online. Hope I helped. Leave feedback if you want. This is going to go on YouTube eventually. And other than that, there's really not much else I can say. A lot of this you'll learn by doing. It's easier than it looks once you get it down. It's hard in the beginning, like everything else is. But once you understand it, the hardest part is always going to be writing the book. So once you understand it, this will be simple. Just do what you enjoy and stay out of trouble.